Salute Nick Streets. The Knicks take a tough loss, man, on New Year's Eve, but we're here to break it down as they lose 132 to 134 on the road in San Antonio, man. This one was a crazy game. It was a playoff game, and we knew that the Spurs were going to come in with intensity and try to get revenge, right? They ended up getting revenge, man, but it didn't play out the way most of us expected this one to play out, right? Unbelievable start where the New York Knicks just could not miss, right? And they found themselves with a huge lead in this one, right? Everything was going down. Depth was clicking. McCullar was getting, high impact minutes. Kolek as well looked good. But the San Antonio Spurs in the second half, the third quarter mostly, really closed the gap, right? But a Jalen Brunson, couple of threes, and an 11-0 late run in the third gave the Knicks separation once again. But San Antonio were continuing to fight and grit it out and make a run late. Wembanyama not on the floor due to hurting his ankle. But the Knicks lose a heartbreaking game in the end. I'm not tripping on this one too much, right? Because a lot of factors we're going to weigh in and we're going to talk about it, shout you guys out. But first and foremost, man, got to wish everyone a happy new year, right? You're rocking with us right now because you're a Knicks diehard, right? And we love you for it, man. And we stick together in this one, win or lose. The Knicks really should have won this one, but obviously we can't still want it. We are 2-1 on the road still, and we've got to get back at it, fam. We've got Atlanta. We can get another dub there, but no Mitch, no Hart. And Luke Cornett, I thought that critical and one where Luke Cornett was the second possession that he kept alive and got an and one in one sequence, and it was back-breaking, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot allow that to happen, right? And if Mitch was playing, that doesn't happen, right? Obviously, we missed Josh Hart in this one as well. The Spurs not playing with Devin Vassell, right? But there was plenty of heroes in this one and some villains. We'll shout it out. We'll get your thoughts in this one, guys. Replay squad, salute. And our Knicks chat buzzing right now. Hit that like button. Chris Gotti in the building. Buzzer beater. 10 drill. Happy New Year's to everyone. Shares V. And 10 drills in the house. Mellow Mike. What's good? Low key beats. Ernest Cameron's with us as well. Everyone else coming through the building, man. Appreciate you for this one. A lot of takes coming through. Look, heartbreakers one to phrase, but I do think that the Knicks, we're going to be in a dogfight, man. I wasn't overly confident. I mean, after the first half, I'm like, man, we cannot put a foot wrong, right? But Mike Brown was kind of playing mad scientist tonight, man. He was mixing and matching. He was searching, right? And I thought he, could have been a lot quicker getting Brunson back in as we see McCullar make another gritty play. I thought Clarkson was a standout performer in this one. He should have played a lot more. Diawara had a quick hook tonight, made an early mistake in the third quarter and basically got sent to the bench in the first minute of the third quarter. But Deuce McBride came in. He made a hell of an impact, did Deuce McBride. Unlucky to get his toe on the line, hitting a late 2, which would have been a 3 if he was able to get behind the arc as well. But Julian Champagny continues to be a Nick killer, and our 3-point defense continues to be something that's killing us, and we need to, clean that up, right? We need to clean up the 3-point defense. Too much ball watching, not paying attention to the man, right? We saw Mike Brown coaching up Tyler Kolek when he dropped back on a fast break attempt where Champagny stepped into his 10th 3. I thought that was the killer, and obviously Luke Cornett. The Keldon Johnson, loose ball foul on the free throw as well. That killed the Knicks. I think those 3 factors. And I don't know why Mike Brown didn't challenge that call. They had a challenge call up their sleeve, right? But obviously he's taken notes from the assistant coach, and you had a challenge up your sleeve. I thought Mike Brown should have used that. And I saw a really soft, foul that shouldn't have even been a foul given to Keldon Johnson. You see players hella wrestle all the time on these, free throw attempts and all of that. But look, the Knicks have more themselves to blame because it was a self-inflicted loss. And that's why I ain't tripping too much from that standpoint. I think we can clean a lot of things up. But obviously, the biggest story, I think, is going deeper into our rotation. McCullar continuing to give the Knicks really meaningful minutes, right? Could have almost rescued us the ball game, right? Getting a jump ball with 7 seconds remaining, despite losing the jump. He got the Knicks potentially another possession back to try to steal this one. So big ups to Kevin McCullar Jr., man. Return home to San Antonio, Texas, where he grew up and went to high school. Tyler Kolek, I thought, again, gave the Knicks solid minutes. But with Deuce McBride returning, I think we did obviously see, Deuce McBride get those first dibs, right? But look, guys, here, without Mitch, well, I think with Mitch we would have won this ball game. But Luke Cornett, once again, that guy, man, we need to get a body on him. And I do think Huck Porty, whilst he made some, rookie errors, some young player errors, I think Huck Porty was more solid defensively. Karl Anthony Towns, did hurt us tonight on the defensive side. Look, everyone was fighting and scrapping. No player was really taking any plays off. But I think, losing his man, failing to box Cornett out late was the killer. And what do you guys feel about that? Should Mike Brown have had Huck Porty on the floor for that critical stretch, that defensive possession, right? We also missed some clean looks. McCall waited, paused, had a corner three that he bricked. And OG Anunoby, right? I think, maybe his legs are a bit soft right now, but OG missed a couple of really open looks as well. And so did Brunson. Obviously, I don't think Brunson had a very good night. They actually threw the soft double, and Brunson, for the most part, was able to navigate. But scoring production-wise, I don't think Brunson really, took over the game, the way we're expecting. Got to give credit to the Spurs defense. But I think on another night, the Knicks pulled this one out, and it's just good to get these playoff kind of, battles in as we're learning more about this team. I think that's the main takeaway, right? We're still got to improve on our three-point defense, but in terms of our depth, it's a big tick right now. Mike Brown just has to pick the right lineups, man, at the right times and not opt for any favorites, right? I think Mo Diawara didn't deserve to be hooked for the rest of the ball game, so quickly, right? Defensively, we went away from what was really working early, which was our length, our size. We were disrupting the San Antonio Spurs, and we were being more aggressive. Also, I kind of feel like guys were looking at the basket, then looking away, right? And we don't say this very often, guys, but were the Knicks too unselfish on offense? A couple of occasions, Diawara and a couple of other guys, Kolek, Cat, a little too hesitant, I think, on the offensive side. And Brunson, he needs help in that area. And I think our scoring production and our confidence just dwindled away as Champagne continued to drain three after three after three, right? It's kind of a throwback to, yesteryear when the New York Knicks would allow, a nobody to get loose on them every single game, man. It still happens on the occasion, not as frequently as it used to happen, but, man, it doesn't feel great to see a guy like Champagne hit the franchise record. That's right, you heard correctly. Champagne hit the Spurs franchise record, I think 11 threes on us. But, man, it's great to have Deuce McBride back, right? We lose this game by a lot without Deuce McBride. He was always shooting it with confidence, and he was letting it fly, right? So, look, all in all, I think it evens out. No Wemby late in this game. We had no Mitch, no Hart. And obviously Deuce is just second game back, right? But I think Mike Brown, this is one of these games where, it's questionable, his decisions for the most part, right? Great to see Mellow Mike in here. Schofield's in the building, AP, New York City Grays. Everyone else having their takes right now. Mellow Mike says the defensive lapses on shooters from the Spurs really killed us in this one. It came back to haunt, especially in the second half. Yeah, you hit that last point. I got to echo what you're saying about the second half, because the third quarters is really when the Knicks are just by far, I got to look at the statistics for the whole season, but I got to feel like the third quarter is still by far the Knicks' worst quarter. Maybe the first, maybe the third, right? And I do think the Knicks lost this golden opportunity to wrap this one up. We were 19-0 in ball games leading into the fourth quarter, ladies and gentlemen. So tonight we lose with the lead heading into the fourth quarter, but obviously to a legit championship contender. I'm not going to hesitate saying that, guys. I do think the Spurs are a legit contender, and I do think they're probably tougher than Detroit. So, we don't take no solace in any loss. That's not what I'm about. But if you are going to lose a ball game, I think, Spurs are better than Detroit. They've got a lot of talent. No Vassell tonight as well. They obviously were leading in the NBA Cup before, our guys decided to get hot and pull it out. But the Spurs wanted revenge, and thankfully we still have one more game in this series back at New York City, Madison Square Garden, right? So obviously with the NBA Cup final, that wasn't a regular season game. So we still have one more to play against the Spurs when we get to New York City later in the season, right? I can't wait for that one. And dare I say, could this be an NBA Finals preview? Man, these two teams never disappoint, man. We still owe them one for 1999, right? But I tweeted this out, man. I was loving the first half, man. It was champagne basketball. The passing, the shot making was at the highest level I've seen on the whole season, and that's saying a lot. But on the flip side, the second half came crumbling down, right? And if you look at the stretch, right, if we look at the wire to wire, as we pull up the box score first, continue to shout you guys out, hit that like button and support the channel if you're enjoying the content, man. I really appreciate you, and I wish you nothing but health, happiness, and blessings on the new year. And it's great to have you rocking out with us despite the loss. We've got lots to talk about still. McCullar giving us big minutes. Man, he looks like a major steal, a major keeper right now. And I just got listening to the Hoops Collective pod before the game, and the national media is really starting to pay attention and notice the Diawaras, the Coleks, the McCullars, and the production that the Knicks are getting from their second round draft picks, hitting on a number of these picks. But at the same time, right, we have one job to do, and that is to get that championship, right? And who's going to be on the floor in these critical games? Mike Brown is still figuring that out, right? Some of us may have the answers and the solutions, but Mike Brown is still figuring it out right now. He's still figuring out his guys. I did think some key minutes with Brunson on the bench did hurt. Cat didn't quite step up in those moments. There was a lot of turnovers in this one. The one where Fox went backdoor on Cat, basically at the top of the key, that should never happen, right? And I'm not just blaming Cat on that one, but that was a momentum boost for the Spurs. That always happens, it seems like, to the New York Knicks, where the player's back is to the play and he ain't paying attention. Someone should be communicating to Cat. Once his man leaves his man and goes to steal on Cat, backdoor. And I know, Swiper Fox is one of the, the elites in the game at that. But that wasn't good enough, ladies and gentlemen. And we gave the Spurs that momentum, right? But the rebounding, we got absolutely bludgeoned, man. 60-46 on the glass, man. We're lucky to even be in the game in that regard. We never lose the rebounding battle to that degree. But the 32 assists to the Spurs 25, that kept us in it. And the fast break points as well. So, whilst I'm not feeling great about our three-point defense and closing games out, closing lineups still got to be figured out. But if you bring Hart, you bring Mitch back, that's a lot more solidity. But I feel good about our fast break play, our speed, because another game where we win the fast break points against a real physical defensive team, and we did match their physicality, and we upped them, only for them to really answer back in the second half, right? Second chance points is a killer, 23-7. That's the ball game right there, ladies and gentlemen. So whatever we gained with the fast break points, 30-19, we gave away with the 23-7 second chance points, fam. Somebody got to get a body on Luke Cornett. Gangstar says Cat is so inconsistent. That's why he's so frustrating at times, man. The high is so high and the low is definitely low. And that is why everyone knows around the league that Cat is not a number one option. I don't doubt Cat can be a second option on a championship team, but you got to have hell of a team around him, right? He's got so many flaws to his game as well. One thing I really dislike about Cat's game as well, he does fall to the ground a lot. You know, he falls off balance, falls to the ground, and then you're out of the play on the defensive side. Great question coming in New York City Grays. Is Deuce on a minutes restriction? Not formally, but I will say the Knicks, you know, they're moving in silence in terms of being extra cautious, fam, this season. You know, Mitchie, you know, they are targeting a Mitch return real soon. But obviously they're being more cautious with the ankle soreness, right? Mitch could have played. If this was a playoff game, Mitch would have played, fam. And so that's why I'm not too mad about the loss, because, you know, whatever they've got to do to make sure that we head into the postseason fully healthy, I'm on board with it. Even if we sacrifice a couple of these regular season games, look at the position we're in. You know, bigger picture stuff. We're 23 and 10, and we need our guys healthy for later in the season, right? And I think tonight kind of proved that we have enough, right? It ain't going to be as easy without these guys, but we have enough to still win these games. And if you just look, you know, we're going to talk about Huck Porty and the other guys in the spotlight, the young fellas stepping up. But Huck Porty, man, gave us a lot of energy, some solid rebounding. Look at that bone-crunching screen to free up Brunson in this one, right? But obviously, I think the story continues to be the young guys in the rotation getting huge minutes outside of Diawara in this one. Now, Diawara, as we spoke on, got the quick hook in the third quarter and did not return into the game. But Mike Brown did trust McCullar, right? So I know it's a difficult job. He's balancing a deeper lineup right now, a deeper rotation. And if he's got to sit Diawara, but he's going to give McCullar minutes because he's overperforming, then I'm okay with it. But, you know, some of these other veterans who made some critical errors as well need to be held accountable as well. Schofield offers his thoughts on Cat as a first option, gets you 40, but no guarantee dub. I think, obviously, yeah, when the other team's playing quick, I think the only way we can sustain that is Cat at the 5. You know, if Cat's playing the 4, we are going to be slow in terms of getting back on defense and all of that. But we should not have lost the rebounding by more than 15 or 14, 15, fam. We gave up 60 rebounds to the San Antonio Spurs in this one, right? And look, Cornett, he's a unit, man. He's huge, man. He can't jump over a credit card, and he can't really move that quickly, but he's tough to move on the spot in the paint, man. He's got hell of a wingspan, and that is why Phil Jackson took a flyer on him back in the day. But yeah, lost opportunity because of a 19-point lead. You know, I almost forget that the Knicks were playing so well that they found themselves with a 19-point lead. And you look at the tracker in the graphic, the Knicks led basically 85 to 90% of the game. And to not win, to lose this one is definitely, you know, it's definitely disappointing, right, in a major way. But it is one game of 82, and they'll learn from this one, right? Champagne, though, took a career night to defeat the New York Knicks, a short-handed New York Knicks. So we do got to keep that in perspective as well, guys. But yeah, back to the Deuce McBride question. Appreciate you, chat, buzzing. Apologies if I miss a question, right? Just repost it if you really want me to address. But yeah, Deuce McBride, 25 minutes, played really well, 7 of 12, 4 of 9 from downtown, but was still a -1, right? But you see Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns, and OG Anunoby a -25. So I'm just noticing that now, guys. 9 points, inefficient night, could not hit a three. It's safe to say that this is one of the worst games from OG Anunoby on the season on the offensive side, right? Dare I say he might need a rest, right? Now, we might need to wait for Hart to get back. But yeah, I'm feeling like OG Anunoby might need a rest, right? Because 34 minutes, he didn't hit a three, he was using up a lot of energy and his legs just did not have it tonight. 1 block, 2 steals, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, but a minus 25, man. Gershon Yabusele, plus 15 in 9 minutes. But obviously the lopsided first to second half is going to paint that picture. Bam, that's going to paint that picture. Now, the game started incredible, right? OG Anunoby won the jump ball against Wemby, which I'm going to bring up. But the passing was elite early and it just disappeared. I think credit to the Spurs. Once again, I don't want to sound like I'm not giving the Spurs any credit. They adjusted. In a playoff type game of adjustments, I do think the Spurs made better adjustments. Their defense was scrambling all over the place and was definitely making the Knicks tighten up. And that's where I go back to my point earlier. I think there was too many guys passive on offense, right? Yes, it's all good to pass the ball and to find the open man. But if it ends up in your hands and you're the open man, you're hurting your team if you pass up the shot, right? The end goal is to pass until someone gets a great shot. Once you get a great shot or a great look, you can't pass that up. You got to look at the hoop and you got to stay aggressive. Otherwise, if you just keep passing, you are playing into the hands of the defense. And I do think the San Antonio Spurs, they made a lot of adjustments, especially scrambling. Now, on the plus side, Tyler Kolek, I think, had a really good game. Right. And I don't think it's no surprise, I bring it up right now, as you see one of his great reads from cat to the basket. And I see the comment from Marcus, Knicks versus the refs. I do think the refs had a bad night. We have a super chat from AP, which I'll hit on right now. But we've got to look at Tyler Kolek, man. 15 minutes, he was plus 14 with 6 dimes as well. There were times when people were clamoring for Kolek to get back on the floor in place of another guy. In the case of Brunson or next to Brunson, look, Kolek looked steady. Especially against the ball pressure. And whatever it is, man, about Kolek right now, it just feels like we're always getting downhill with Kolek. His ability to skip pass, or his ability to swing the ball from side to side, and his ability to get downhill. Now, we are playing at a different speed when Tyler Kolek is out there on the floor. Again, I give Mike Brown time because he's still figuring it out. I know Deuce McBride almost won us the game as well, but there are times when we do look better with Kolek next to Brunson, right? So Mike Brown got a crazy decision on his hands to make, I think, moving forward, fam. Try not to glaze Kolek too much, but I just think we look good with him out there on the floor. And we missed his playmaking. The ball was moving really well. So give us your thoughts, fam. Johnny Chiba, salute to you. Knicks' first half was amazing. All the young dudes had the groove. The momentum turned when the Knicks stopped playing smart. And you said it, 100%. Young fellas had the energy. I think the veterans kind of let us down a little bit. But it's 1 of 82. We're still figuring things out. I think obviously the simple equation is you welcome in Mitch, you welcome back Hart. And it kind of eliminates some of the problems that we're going to have and the decisions, right? Kolek's probably not going to play as much when Hart's out there and when Hart's healthy. And obviously Deuce McBride will play a lot, but Kevin McCullar might not play much if Josh Hart is back. And also Hart probably skies for one of those rebounds as well. So we do miss Hart. Demario, Happy New Year. Knicks Nation, great job as always. CT, cheers to you. Demario, great to see you in the building. Elliot says, I didn't expect the Knicks to win this one without Mitch and Hart, but the Knicks let this one get away. Yep, you said it. I agree with that. Now, we've got the super chat from AP, rocking with us as always, and I appreciate the passion, the knowledge coming through. AP says, I'm sorry. I don't think the Knicks can beat a good team like this when it really counts. I have no confidence from what they've shown me. And I respect your opinion, man. I think the Knicks got to prove it when it means the most. But I disagree in terms of I'm confident still. I think early in the season, I mean, look at what Mike Brown is doing. I think you've got to look at the bigger picture as we had our best quarter on the season in the first quarter. So the Knicks, tweeted this out. Highest scoring first quarter, 45 points on a championship contender, fam. Now, would I react differently if this was against Atlanta, Chicago, Charlotte, Indiana? Yes, absolutely, I would. But you've got to look at this game you got to look at tonight's game in a different lens. We are going up against a championship contender, and it's frustrating to lose one, but I'm not discouraged because we're going up against a team that's legit. We're no longer losing games to teams that aren't legit. If we are going to drop a game, best believe it's going to be to a team that's legit. And I know we lost a couple of scrappy ones early to Miami and Orlando, but I do think we've kind of turned the corner since then. And as I say, 45 points against one of the best defenses in the league, with young players playing major minutes too. Now, next up, big super chat. Schofield in the building. Salute. Great to see you. Great job this year, CT. Happy 2026 to the chat as well. Cheers to you, my fam. And great to see you in the building, showing your passion and knowledge. And look, it never feels great after a loss, man. I want nothing more to ring in the new year with a big dub in San Antonio. But if you lose, you can also learn. And I do think this team has got ways to go. And I prefer we drop a couple of games where we can learn from rather than just go, undefeated from here on out. Because, that ain't going to teach you nothing. That ain't going to teach you nothing. And there's going to be more challenges to come. We haven't played Detroit yet. And we are the hunted now, guys. There's going to be teams coming out saying, hey, none of this Knicks buzz, man. We want to kill the buzz. And that's why our guys need to be ready for those challenges in this one. Yeah, proud of the guys' fight, the energy, the hustle. I do think some lack of execution and poor decision making hurt us late. Now, Kevin McCullar Jr., again, I've got him in the title, continues to make major plays. Kevin McCullar Jr. with the wraparound, finding Huck Porty, right? I think Huck Porty made a step in the right direction in this one. My take on Huck Porty, guys, is that I think you see a guy who's in and out of lineups and his confidence can come and go. And I do think once you start playing Huck Porty, 10 to 15 minutes on a consistent basis, he will improve. And I do think he's starting to get more minutes and he's starting to look more comfortable. Would still like him to look at the basket a little bit more and be more aggressive with the dribble handoffs. And making the defense pay attention. But all in all, I think defensively tonight, Huck Porty was solid. He stayed vertical. He earned us a couple of extra possessions, I think, with his rebounding as well. And I do think if we're going to be talking about the trade deadline and what's to come, but I do think a guy like, the center position, obviously if Yabusele ain't hanging around, and I wouldn't hold my breath on Yabusele hanging around, I do think he's up there with one of the most likely players to get moved. And I do think we could do with another power forward / big man that can eat some minutes on the defensive side. But on the wing front, with Diawara and with McCullar, I do think we're in a really good position, with our younger guys taking a step in the right direction. McCullar is a regular rotation player for me if Hart is out. With Hart in, Diawara is still a rotation player too. So I think our wing depth is where we need it to be right now. Could we still do with a Sadiq Bey? I think, it depends on how Leon Rose can, maneuver the trade market. But I do think worst case scenario, we've got a couple of guys now that can really give this team something. Claude Smith says the Knicks played very good considering Mitch, Hart, and Shamet wasn't in the rotation. And yes, great point to make. 100% agree. We can't forget about Landry Shamet as well, another shot maker too. Buzzer Beater says, stop wishing for Cat to change. He is what he is. Now, I think Cat on the defensive side, needs to stay more locked in, especially boxing out. On the offensive side, you love his passing, you love his shot making at times, but at the same time, he's just got to, cut out the silly follies and the turnovers too. Again, I just think it's more mental with Cat. He's got to stay locked in to the game 100% of the time. To let Fox get backdoor and steal that one was tough. So yeah, we've got a lot of passion in the chat tonight, man. Appreciate you guys keeping it respectful. Joe Brown says, bringing in the new year with a loss just set the trend for the Knicks. They ain't doing nothing for sure. Won't make the finals. I disagree on that, but we've also got some people that want to see improvement, and there is a lot of improvement to come. Elliot says, I like K-Mac's activity on D. Would like to see him more in the fourth quarter. Yeah, you look, instant impact. You see him coming in, and he made a huge impact, especially with that final, stop that we got. The thing about McCullar too, he's another outlet that can play next to Brunson too. He can pass, he can shoot, he can play make, and he's a great defender, man. He could guard 1 through 4. I'm not going to get crazy. 1 through 4, I think McCullar can guard. Buzzer Beater says, appreciate the love, fam. Peace and blessings to 2026. Look, I think this is a big year for the Knicks in terms of the postseason run. But is it going to be easy, guys, going up against great teams? No, it's not, right? Brunson is undersized, and I do think playing, with more wings on defense is a priority. Making sure we rebound the basketball and close out these final possessions is key. And that is why Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart, man, they are absolutely critical, right? They're beyond unsung heroes. They are major factors for this team, especially closing those defensive possessions out and breaking the back of the other opponent, right, with those rebounds too. I feel confident Luke Cornett doesn't get that, that put back and one if Mitchell Robinson is out there. Obviously, Cat had a lapse in that one and it really cost us, but he wasn't the only one too. I think Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby not shooting the ball great in this one as well hurt us, and allowing Justin Champagnie to have a career night too was something that hopefully we never see again, right? Next up, super chat from my guy Johnny Chiba. Happy New Year, CT. It's been great talking Knicks with you. All right, too bad a dumb loss ends 2025, but silver linings. All the young dudes play. JB's last second hoop won me 40. Here's half, bro. Peace. Dink Pate to 2026. Right, Dink Pate for Prez. Those are my own words, but in Johnny Chiba's words, man, I really appreciate the love, man. Appreciate the respect, as always, the knowledge, the passion, riding the ups, the downs with the rest of the crew. And no doubt, man, 2026 is going to be big time. Happy for ya that you won on the last second hoop, man. How crazy was the game overall with Brunson getting a last minute hoop and steal. And appreciate the generosity as always. But yeah, I think this loss ain't going to really hurt the team in any way. They're so mentally locked in right now, and they're super confident. Now, I do think, again, deep rotation's cool, but with Mitch and Hart out, I think Brown's still figuring things out, and he's just going to tighten up that rotation a little bit more, fam. So let's get the box score back up. And look, I don't know if the Yabusele minutes are because Mitch is just out, purely about that, or I don't know if it's a little bit of showcase, right? It could be a bit of both. But Yabusele's 9 minutes, man. In these cutthroat games where a possession could cost you the game, a win or a loss, I do think Mike Brown, when push comes to shove, he'll tighten that up. And maybe he'll cut, Yabusele's minutes even further, or maybe, you know, he won't even play, especially if Mitch is in there or Hart. Hukporty, look, you see how impactful and how productive he is, right? 3 of 4 from the field. Didn't get to the foul line, but 3 offensive rebounds, 6 total, with an assist, a steal, and a block, right? 1 turnover, 3 fouls, 6 points, and a plus 13. So really, really solid production from the Huckamania, right? Now, should he continue to play? Right, I'm a proponent of Hukporty continuing to play, because if you want a young player to kind of take that next step and shake off some of that rust, you got to keep playing them. You know, it's tough for Hukporty when he plays maybe 10, 15, and then he doesn't play again for a couple of games, and then you ask him to produce again. It's tough, right? Now, I really appreciate them resting Mitch too, you know. As much as I would have loved to see Mitch tonight and us pull out the ball game, the fact that Mitch, you know, is healthy and able to play if this was a playoff game, that's all I need to know. Fam, that's all I need to know. Right, so you guys are absolutely balling in this one, man. Appreciate the love and the super chats and all the regular chats as well, fam. Ain't forgetting about y'all either. But yeah, AP bringing the fire. Johnny Chiba bringing the fire. Buzzer beater, AP, and everyone out here. Let me rewind all the way back to see if I've missed anything. LB New York City, 89, man. Talking about Cat's IQ, right? And wanting him to step it up, right? Making dumb plays. Low-key beat, salute. Mr. Nixon, salute. Close loss, hard fought. We missed Hart and Mitch on the boards. Yeah, you already know. Definitely. Mellow Mike says, very good point. Too much ball watching, and they let that guy from the Spurs just keep shooting it. Too. SF Wisdom says, time for Cat to go. Mike Brown made some questionable lineup decisions in the fourth. Yeah, I said it too, and I agree. Questionable. In terms of time for Cat to go, I think that's gonna play itself out, you know, in due course. I do think this year a lot is riding on it in terms of the future team. But yeah, a lot of more challenges to come, and I just hope they really learn from this one. Jose G Insight, my guy, Happy New Year to you and fam. The whistle was the Spurs 6-man tonight for sure. CT. I think they let a lot go as well, but you know, when the thing is, when it's physical and then they tighten the whistle, it's tough. It's tough for the Knicks to adjust to that one, fam. We've got a Spurs fan in the building, Sean Michael. Yo, I'm a Spurs fan who lives in San Antonio. Loving this new rivalry. Y'all can take Jeremy Sohan off our hands if you like. Sean, man, appreciate you coming through, and I appreciate the comment about Sohan. A lot of Knicks fans are very high on Sohan, but I think we would have grabbed at that last season. Now that McCullar and the Knicks have got a couple of young players making a leap, you know, that reduces the need, but they might still be looking at another wing like Sohan. I must admit I'm surprised, because I did see Sohan on the bench late in the ball game. I had no idea why Sohan wasn't playing. Was it just the coach's decision now that he's out of the rotation? Look, offensively, Sohan's challenged, but he's a bigger version of like a McCullar that we have. I think McCullar might be a better shooter though, but obviously Hart is more undersized too. Knicks won today. It says Clarkson is best used as a microwave, not for a long stretch. You love the fight that Clarkson showing. Knicks won today. But I do think that, yeah, Clarkson, as you say, you know, he's got to be used in the right stretches too. I much prefer Kolek next to Brunson or Deuce over Clarkson. But I got to give Clarkson his props, because from the corners, he's really coming to the party in terms of knocking down the corner threes. Schofield also says Spurs beat the champs. They're the champs right now. The Spurs look hungry, man. Don't sleep on Vassell. If Vassell was out there tonight, man, we have our hands full. But if Mitch is out there, they have their hands full as well. We all know Mitch is taking care of Luke Cornett, man, in his sleep, right? And until Wemby can stay healthy, again, he leaves the game with an injury, and I know it's a freak play. It can kind of happen to anyone. So yeah, here's the tip early. OG Anunoby winning the tip against Wemby, man, going coast to coast. What with tipping it to Brunson, who went coast to coast in that one, fam. Look, that was the best quarter I've seen on the season, man. On the road, the Knicks just looked amazing in the first quarter, putting up 45. But you got to close the game out, fam. And this one's for Johnny Chiba, Dink Pate, 2026, right? This was from the other night. Dink Pate continues to play well with Westchester. Let's see what the Knicks are going to do. But he's feeling it now with the step back, right? Dink Pate putting up step back threes right now. A 6'8" point forward combo guard. I don't really know what he is right now, man. He could be anything, right? He could be nothing or he could be everything. But yeah, there's a lot of potential in Dink Pate. And look, if our development staff are doing, wonders with Kolek and McCullar and the other guys, Diawara, right? If we can develop another guy like a Dink Pate, right? That's going to take a lot of pressure off the captain, right? In terms of those late game situations, handling the rock, too. But yeah, let's roll some highlights from Diawara from the last game too. 18 points, breakout party for Diawara, right? Why didn't he get more minutes in this one? I know he was a little bit passive down the stretch, but that was a situation where I do think, growing pains and you got to live with it. It is going to get better, right? Now, next up, super chat from my guy Buzzer Beater. Mark January 5th on your calendars, fam. New York Flash, let's go Knicks, right? So, the love from Buzzer Beater, man, is real. Appreciate you, man. Keeping it tight. Now, January 5th, Detroit on Peacock, NBC. That one is a 7 p.m. tip, right? So we have ATL, we have Philly, and in a week's time, or less than a week, we are going to be going up against the number 1 seed, and hopefully we can get back this loss, right, and gain more ground on Detroit. Now, just to throw it back to you, Buzzer, how are you feeling about it? Are you feeling confident? Give me out of 10. Out of 10, how confident are you guys coming up against Detroit on Monday, January 5th? Buzzer Beater's telling you, mark it on the calendars if you haven't already got it marked. I do think that is going to be, so, anticipated. And for those that didn't see, it was Christmas Day, the 12 p.m. game against the Cavaliers, man, was the highest rating early Christmas Day game in history. So the Knicks are bringing the ratings, fam. Knicks, Cleveland, deserve a shout out. But yeah, the early tip on Christmas Day, Knicks Cavs, was the highest rated early Christmas Day game ever, man. So that is big time too. And everyone's going to be waiting to see what happens on January 5th against Detroit, right? Me personally, I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling 8.5 out of 10. I'll go 8.5 out of 10 right now. Again, I look at the Pistons bench, and there's a lot of, younger guys, a lot of hotheads. They're Melissa Malik Beasley, but they've got, Duncan Robinson. I think that's a weak point we can attack on the offensive side. And obviously you got Ron Holland still off the bench, but Dennis Jenkins is playing really well. Dennis Jenkins is playing. Marcus Sasser is playing really well. Dennis Jenkins is a piece that's situational, but it is Marcus Sasser who put up 19 the other night. So we've definitely got to pay attention to what he's doing. That'll be a good test for Kolek. AP with another super chat. This team absolutely burns me up, but they are allowed 32 losses. Right. They are allowed 32 losses. And Buzzer Beater says, in response, I'm not allowing them 32 losses. Right. I mean, your standards are super high, AP. I respect that. it's championship or bust for you, definitely. And Knicks Nation been waiting for that championship drought to break. But yeah, I still feel like, we know what this team is now. They have an identity, thank goodness, but they ain't the finished product by no stretch. We've got to be prepared for these growing pains still. And Mike Brown's still unproven with this team in the postseason. We know Thibodeau could push a couple of buttons, push the play better button and get a lot of juice out of this team. But Mike Brown is going to have to produce, when it counts, right? But as Schofield said earlier, the Spurs knocked off the Thunder, and who knows, guys, they might even be a bigger challenge. So if you look at it from that standpoint, we looked amazing in the first half without Mitch, without Josh Hart. And I do think our guys are just going to get a lot better. If you look at it. If you look at the way Kolec's playing now, McCullar, Diawara and that, fast forward to 50 more games. Now, we do got to talk about this because McCullar, Trey Jemison and that, these guys are on a two-way contract. Right, so what I was thinking the other day, guys, is consolidation trade. Right, it has to be. Because you have to find a way to get McCullar or Trey Jemison off of a two-way. Because right now, they're not playoff eligible. Right? How bad would that be? Right? How much of a buzzkill would that be if McCullar, who would force his way into a rotation, would not be able to be playing in the playoffs? So Leon Rose got to figure that out. And I think the easy, quick solution is to, offload Yabusele or Dardier. Or even wait to April and you can sign the 15th man, I think, under the contract. If you sign them to a prorated contract, I'm pretty sure that's possible as well. But for now, thankfully, Diawara and Kolek are on the regular rotation, regular contracts. Huck Porty is on a regular contract as well. And Huck Porty is playoff eligible, right? It's just the two-way guys. Buzzer Beater does say, though, to AP, we're relying too much on Mitch and Hart, possibly. Johnny Chiba says, I guarantee you will see similarities between Game 1's collapse and tonight's. Cat puts the lapse in collapse. Look, I don't want to foreshadow no follies and things like that, but yeah, you got to learn from these, you got to learn from these mistakes. We tighten up our 3-point D and we're home, homie. We're good. We tighten up our 3-point D, right? What a stone cold 3 from Brunson this one was, man. He broke Fox's ankle with that one, and it was a nice flop by Fox, right? But yeah, Brunson just couldn't hit late earlier before this possession. But obviously, yeah, the other guys I just think didn't have it going. Bridges and OG. Think about if OG could knock down just a couple of his 5 threes, we win. So I know the low hanging fruit is Cat, Mike Brown tonight, and that might be fair, but I do think there was other factors why we didn't win this game. I mean, how many times does OG go 0 or 5 from downtown? So that ain't happening again. How many times does Luke Cornett and Keldon Johnson come up with a scrappy possession, extra possession? If Mitch and Hart's out there, their percentages drastically decrease, right? What else can we say? Obviously, yeah, the cat turnovers and Foley as well. Now, a very uncharacteristic shot, but I didn't like that mid-range that Cat took. It just didn't feel right. Didn't feel like it was in rhythm, I know he's got the quick release, he's got the stroke, but it just kind of felt like a shot that Cat just wasn't comfortable taking. Would almost prefer him take a step back and shoot it from behind the arc. To Johnny Chiba, next up, says CT Dolan is going to call Leon after tonight's game and say, Don Leon, get me the Greek. Get rid of the cat. I think Dolan, is letting Leon do his job, but I think when it comes to an end of a season review, Dolan might just want to be in that meeting again. Let's see what happens with that. Look, we're playing for keeps. This season, the future of the squad is on show for the rest of the season. I don't think there's going to be no Giannis trade yet until after the postseason. So we just got to buckle up, fam. Everyone fasten your seatbelts. Yeah, look, Deuce McBride, really impressive the last two, and he's just returned, so his minutes should go up from 25, right? As the question in the chat earlier, is Deuce on a minutes restriction? Well, hopefully not soon, man. He needs to get off of that, because I do think, if this wasn't his second game back, he might be playing 30 plus. He played 25, right, and was very, very efficient, man. 4 of 9. I mean, he's a better shooter from downtown than Brunson is, and I feel confident saying that. They're both very, very good. Macau Bridges, 3 of 7 from downtown, not too bad. I mean, that's pretty solid. Cat, 2 of 5 from downtown as well. I mean, they all seem within the flow of the offense. We shot 52%. Sorry, we shot 52 attempts on 42% from downtown. But you look at OG, man, 0 of 5. Even Clarkson, man, 4 of 6. Man, if we can replicate that, we're in a great position. Make no mistake about that. CC's in the building. Great to see you, man. Happy New Year to you too. And fam, keep it buzzing. AP still has trust issues with the team. Let us know what you want to see, cleaned up, or what particular area. Is it mainly about Cat? And yeah, I do think you elaborate on the next super chat. AP with a super chat again. Appreciate you for the contribution. Says, I've got a bad feeling Cat is going to cost us big in the playoffs, right? It's going to be in a big spot. Again, look, there's a high probability that Cat will have some follies. I do think it's a situation where Mike Brown is really going to have to continue coaching defense and offense, because I think it's come to that. I do think if it's defense, get Mitch out there as much as you possibly can. On offense, I do think we're still better with Cat out there. I don't think Cat really set no bad screens tonight, no illegal screens. It was just his decision making. His decision making with the basketball was putrid. Again, that bad shot attempts. A little too slow, too passive. I mean, if you can't take Luke Cornett off the dribble, man, it's a wrap. Take whoever you got off the dribble. Kelly Olynyk, Luke Cornett. I mean, now I give him props for this play. This is probably Cat's best play in this one. And that's what I mean, man. If Wemby's off the floor and you've got Cornett or Kelly Olynyk, you need to be spamming that like this ASAP. Now, credit to McCullar for the cut at the right time. That was a beautiful cut right when his man rotated off of him. That's perfect timing when Keldon Johnson left McCullar, right? Where was that player movement late down the stretch? That's why everyone was kind of standing around, right? When they were trying to soft double Brunson, everyone should have been cutting like crazy in this one. But again, what's the common denominator? I'm going to say it again. Tyler Kolek was out on the floor. Look, makes a nice little dribble to his left, swings it to Cat, for Cat to then make the hockey, or Kolek with the hockey assist, Cat with the assist. And the ball does move better with Kolek out there. Brunson wasn't on the floor at this point. The Knicks made a little run early in the fourth. But when Brunson returned, obviously they knew the ball's going to be in his hands, and they started to bring the double. Right, the Knicks got to do better at getting good looks, because they are going to bring that double on JB. Now, I ain't even worried about Cat so much on offense, but the ball needs to swing drastically, and I do think it does when Kolek is out there. Now, you could take the best and worst with Deuce out there, because he does turn it over sometimes, but he's a hell of a shot maker in place of Kolek. So I think either or, Mike Brown's trying to figure it out, right? And it might just be a point where Josh Hart replaces all of them when he's healthy, right? Me personally, I would live with Deuce out there because, again, we almost pulled the game out. But you could go ultra small and maybe take McCullar off the floor and have OG, have a center, have OG, have Deuce, Kolek, and Brunson. Right? I know it's super small, but I mean it's the antidote to any trap, right? On the offensive side, right? How do y'all feel about that? Buzzer asks, "How is EJ, man?" EJ's doing great, man. Appreciate you checking in on EJ as well. We texted the other day. EJ's going to come on soon. He's on holidays, I believe. So, yeah, we're going to tee some things up. Shirley Willis, salute. We're not going to win all the games, but if Hart and Mitch were in tonight, we would have won the game. So I'm not worried. We agree on that, Shirley. It's a great point as well. And definitely a happy new year and blessings to you, everyone in the building, buzzing with us despite the loss. The Knicks are 13 games above 500, right? So we're 33 into the season, right? Let's take a look around the league because there was a lot of action in this one. New Year's Eve, and we've got a lot to talk about in terms of the standings, right? So it looks like the Magic picked up a win. The Cavaliers picked one up. The Bulls won over the Pels. The Hawks got a win. The Timberwolves are in a little bit of a tailspin recently. Okay, great for the Knicks at the Raptors, who are all the way up in fourth now. The Raptors take an L to the Nuggets, right? The Joker, positive, diagnosis, positive from a standpoint where it's not season ending, but it does look like the Joker is going to be out for multiple weeks, right? But they still get the win over the Raptors, which is big time. And shout out to the Wizards Hive getting a big win over the Bucks as well. Giannis can't be happy about that. Bam. And the Thunder pick up a win. So let's pull up this table right now. The Knicks take their 10th loss on the season, but we have 23 wins to go with. And it does look like the Celtics are now just 2.5 games back of the New York Knicks. So critical stretch coming up, ladies and gentlemen, right? I've got December's schedule there. I'm definitely going to bring up the new year right now because we are in January, ladies and gentlemen. Let me pull this one up right now because big games at play coming up. But yeah, we do have just 2 games back of the Pistons still. So that game on January 5th, man, that could pull within 1 with a win on that one. Now that is going to be in Detroit. And like I said, I'm feeling good about it. Buzzer Beater says the plus minus is misleading. It is. It is definitely misleading in terms of nights like tonight, where you have an amazing first half, and then you literally crap the bed. So if you look at this wire to wire, the fact that the Knicks were up by 19 does, cloud the plus minus. If you just looked at the second half plus minus, I think that would be a true reflection on tonight's ball game. But look, Spurs were always going to tighten it up, man. They're a championship contender, like I said. They're at home looking for revenge. I think we countered, their biggest punch, and we countered back. But they had the final blow. Unfortunately, we were without a couple of our guys. But I do think we're going to be good in the long term, fam. Shay Salute says, Cat lost on D. It was an ugly sight, man. That failed to box out. That really, really hurt us in that one. And I do think, Mike Brown's got a hell of a task trying to, coach the best out of Karl Anthony Towns. Now, fortunately, we have a great replacement in terms of Mitchell Robinson on the defensive side. We just got to make the right subs, man, and read of the play and get these guys in and out. Offense, defense. I mean, what an impact McCullar can make. You sub him in for defensive possession. What does he do, man? He rewards you instantly. by getting the jump ball, right, to almost help you rescue the ball game. Now we need more dogs like that, right? I need Diawara to show me that tenacity as well, and Macau, OG did it last season against Boston in the playoffs, right? But look at the East, man. How are you feeling about the East? You got the Raptors in fourth. You know, I like to be. I don't sound disrespectful. I think the Raptors are talented. They're having a good season, but I don't. When I see them, I don't feel any fear that we can't handle their best punch. Orlando, I think they can still win 2, maybe 3 games against us, but I still think we prevail. Philadelphia, every time they take a step forward, man, they take a step back in terms of the health of Joel Embiid and Paul George and that Maxey, the young guys, VJ, looking good, but why aren't they making a run? You know, they're 17 and 14, right? If there's so much buzz about Philly, man, y'all should be ahead of the Magic. Y'all should be ahead of the Raptors, right? No excuses. Miami, I mean, they're sorry right now, 18 and 15. Cleveland, I mean, they might need to blow that thing up. And then you got Chicago and ATL, man. The less said, the better about those teams, right? So, look, all in all, the only teams I'm really worried about are the Pistons and the Celtics, fam. And if one of those two teams can take each other out in the second round, then we're okay, right? The Pistons and the Celtics might face in the second round. We'll see how that plays out. But obviously, we've got 4 matchups against the Pistons. We basically almost played the Celtics, the season series. I think we got maybe 1 or 2 to play. But the Pistons, we got all 4. The January 5 is the first matchup on the season, the first of 4 against the Pistons. So, you know, that's going to be hella interesting when it comes to that. You know, but look, I do think one of the biggest challenges for Mike Brown was to, you know, try to get the top seed, but also play more guys. And so far, so good. You know, he's playing more guys. You know, you ain't going to win every single game, just like Shirley says, but you definitely got to improve. The 3-point defense, again, it was a la game 1 against Indiana, right? Which I hate to say, but it is true, man. How many times are we going to let one dude just get loose from 3-point range? And that is where Mike Brown either could have called a timeout or, you know, made a better defensive substitution. Now, to his credit, he pulled Kolek out of the game immediately, called the timeout, pulled Kolek aside, and coached him up. Right, coached him up proper. Right, was talking to him. They ended up shaking hands. Kolek looked like he was listening to every single word Mike Brown was saying. So it's very, very different to what we saw last season with Tom Thibodeau, right? Thibodeau would have just shaken his head and just told the guy, man, go have a seat. And he probably never would have brought him back into the game again, man. And then his confidence is shot. So, look, Mike Brown ain't doing everything perfect, but he is coaching these dudes up. If they make an error or mistake, he's letting them know exactly what he hate about that specific play, and then he will get them back out there, right? He'll say, "Don't do it again," and go back out there. And but it was a critical error in transition to let Champagnie pull up, and then another half court set right after that. Champagnie, after swinging the ball, the Spurs got him a wide open look, which I think was the final 11-3. Right, and after that, man, it was frustrating beyond belief with that one. So I think there is a bit of push and pull. If we want to play fast, we want to continue to get up and down, you are going to give up some open looks. But it's an extreme level right now that needs to be cleaned up, where, you know, it's been the story a lot all season. We've gotten a little bit lucky in terms of teams not, you know, winning games by hurting us from downtown. We have been able to answer the call, but our transition defense has to tighten up. The positive signs are, if you got Hart, you got Mitch, and you got Diawara and McCullar, those are 4 defensive minded guys. So I do think, if you want to clean up your defense, you need more defensive minded guys out there. And if Karl Anthony Towns is the 5, he needs to step up and close out. He needs to step up and close out as well. Johnny Chiba says, I thought Mike Brown would never let a game 1 happen. Now I know I'm wrong. And AP says, San Antonio is definitely a better team than us. That's your opinion, and definitely I respect that. I think, look, this season series is 1-1, despite the NBA Cup game not counting. And the Spurs are a hell of a team. But, yeah, we've got some things we've got to clean up. And so do the Spurs as well. I do think we can exploit, an Olynyk. We can exploit guys like Cornet, too, if we're smart about it. And I do think, Mitchell Robinson, some of y'all continue to underrate what Mitchell Robinson is all about, ladies and gentlemen. If you really want to judge this team, the best version of this team is with Mitchell Robinson out there, ladies and gentlemen, right? You can't really overanalyze a game where Huck Pority's playing a lot because he's still, very young, and some of these other dudes as well. Now, by all means, you could analyze and criticize Karl Anthony Towns from that standpoint. But Mitch is the antidote to a lot of this team's weakness, too, fam. It's like sending Thor out there into a battle without his hammer. I think that's for y'all Marvel heads. That's a way you could look at it, fam. It's like sending a guy to battle, in a war without a gun. It's like sending a guy out there into a battle with a bow and arrow, while the other team's got guns. I think if the Knicks are to win this season and they're to go toe to toe with the best, we absolutely need Mitchell Robinson. Buzzerbeater says Mitch is the yin to Cat's yang. You said it. He's water to the desert right now. New York City Grey says Cat is still a top center in the league. Let's be real. Yeah, I just think he does so many good things as well that people just expect it. Yeah, Cat makes great plays, passing, hitting those threes as well. And as I say, I think the best way to analyze it is Cat is just a good second option. He's a second option. And I do think we're going to analyze it from that standpoint. He'll never lead a team to a championship as the number 1 option. He would have done that by now because he's got the talent. I guess ultimately, if we get it done or we don't, the answer will come back to, is Brunson good enough as number 1 to elevate everyone else? Or does Leon Rose really need to switch it up a little bit, and try to get a better second option? Or you get an equal first option in a Giannis, which will, address the issue as well, especially from a two-way defensive standpoint. Now, if you look around the league, most championship teams' best players play two-way. You look down the list of players. I mean, in recent memory, obviously Steph Curry was a little bit more one-sided, but you look at other guys, LeBron, two-way player. You look at Tim Duncan, two-way player. Kobe Bryant, two-way player. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a two-way player. Giannis is a two-way guy. You need guys to win that are two-way. Or you need a whole heap of defensive specialists, around them, to compensate and devastate. Buzzer does also, mention Cat falling on the floor after his drives has got to go. 100%, man. You're preaching to the choir on that one, man. He just flops a little bit too easy. I don't know if it's the big feet, the high center of gravity, but it doesn't take much to really push Cat off of his spot. And that is where a lot of teams have tried to play him at the 4. teams have tried to play him at the 4 a lot. Ultimately, it's tough in terms of playing at a faster speed and a faster pace. But look, if I had to choose between more Cat minutes and some Yabu minutes, I'm still going with more Cat minutes. Because he can still move better than Yabu right now. But look, Yabu had a nice finish in transition, but I don't think we got a 3 from Yabu tonight. Now, I think with Cat's salary, it ain't realistic to think Cat could be a 3rd option. Maybe I'm wrong, Maybe that maybe not with this current team, but maybe in a different world, if a Knicks had a blue chip draft prospect on their team that was like ascending, like a Maxi, or like a like someone else, like a Stephon Castle, Keontae George, someone who is kind of ascending to that level. Cat could theoretically become a 3rd option, but the Knicks just don't have that luxury right now with our salaries. Now, on a different night, could Mikal Bridges be the 2nd best player on offense? Occasionally, but not enough to rely on. Could OG Anunoby, from time to time or consistently be the 2nd best player on this team? Occasionally, but not enough to depend on. So unfortunately, we are in a situation where, Cat needs to be the 2nd best player. And on some nights, because Brunson's human, Cat needs to be the best player on some nights. No excuses, right? When you are earning 50 mil, and this goes on the front office as well, because they're paying it. But if you are paying a guy 50 mil, he needs to be the number 1 option on most nights, right? I mean, Cat's earning more than JB, from that standpoint. Thank goodness we hit gold with Mitchell Robinson in the 2nd round, that we actually have him. If we were in a situation where it was just Cat or Huck Porty as the backup, it would be in the trade market ASAP. We would be knocking down every single door to get another big man, and we probably still should. That's the gold with Giannis. He can play the 5. You could play death lineups with Giannis at the 5. So that is going to be interesting, to see how Mike Brown goes in the playoffs, man. Look, there is a lot of weaknesses our team can still have that can be exploited. But I do trust Mike Brown and the coaching staff to remedy that with mixing and matching lineups. I think that's going to be our best shot, is to just make sure that there's enough defensive guys and shot makers around guys that can't make shots, and enough guys that can scramble on D alongside JB and Cat. But we have the great equalizer, which is Mitchell Robinson, man. Worst case scenario, he parks himself in the paint, and if you miss, you got a 50% chance of getting the rebound, or at least, you're sending, the other team is sending 2 bodies to focus on Mitch, which is going to free up another guy, to sky high for the rebound. But so far, if things tighten up late in a playoff game, man, I'm more worried about our half-court execution when we don't have another trustworthy ball handler out there. So I don't know if Jose Alvarado is the solution to that. I do believe maybe playing Clarkson alongside someone else with JB. We've seen that work out because he can handle a bit, can knock down the shots like this one. But he is a question mark defensively. But I'm probably thinking, maybe a Brunson Kolek deuce, Definitely Brunson deuce, but could you do a Brunson Kolek deuce? Because we all know Deuce does tighten up a little bit as well, down the stretch. And his playmaking isn't to the level of a Tyler Kolek. That's why I like this Kolek advancement, the fact that we're fast tracking it, because we have 50 more games, fam, to give these guys experience, right? Now, we have 2 games against OKC. We have 4 coming up against Detroit. We have another one against San Antonio. I need Tyler Kolek to be playing major minutes in all of them so that you can figure it out. Because, including the Boston game as well. Because all of this regular season game is about wins and losses, but it's also about, preparing for what is the inevitable. The inevitable is we're going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, man. That's the inevitable, And we're going to be doing battle from the first, second, third round against teams trying to get at us. And the more that we can, blood these guys in, blood these youngsters, and just, figure it all out from a schematic standpoint, from a rotation standpoint, then the better prepared we'll be. Worst case scenario, at least we're not going in blind with Thibodeau like last season, right? Now, if Tibbs was still the coach, we'd still be winning a lot of these regular season games, guys. But the difference would be, we wouldn't. Tibbs would have already decided, okay, if the playoffs start tomorrow, this is my 7 guys, and that's it. What Mike Brown's doing right now is he's still figuring out, okay, with 50 games to play, how many of these guys can I actually trust? How many of these guys can I actually play? So he's doing the assignment early. He's getting his homework done early. So when the playoffs actually hit, he already knows. Okay, I've tried Kolek against OKC. I've tried Diawara against San Antonio. I've tried McCullar, Huckbordy, and all of these guys, and I know what they can and can't do at the end of the day. And let's not rule out the chemistry standpoint. Brunson still needs to play more with these guys, and the other guys need to play with each other more so that they can, develop more of that chemistry. See, players need to know where they need the ball, where they like it, and the best cuts and reads with these guys. They look a lot more comfortable with Huckbordy out there with the dribble handoffs. Some of that chemistry is still around from last season, which is good. AP says we need to solve this defensive problem. And do you think anyone fears going up against Towns? New York City Grey says right now Cat is even better than Embiid. Cat's more healthy than Embiid, so yeah, I would definitely still take Cat. But yeah, they're both got their flaws with that one. I do think. Look, Cat in the playoffs does rise up. You see better effort. You see you see him locked in a little bit more. So, sometimes he does have his lapses in the reg season. But yeah, Cat, he's definitely got to give us his best, I think. Otherwise, there'll be a major change in the off season. So we've got our guy. I think that's Russian. I think that might be a Russian user handle. But nothing terrible happened. But we're not winning a championship with Towns. Unfortunately, he's a fantastically talented player and could drop 50 any night. But it's completely random. Yeah, I think the best way I can say it personally is just Cat's a second option on a championship team. And with that said, he needs to be close to flawless to be the second best player. Or your team is just so deep that, Cat gives you his best for 25, 30, and you let the other center or the other players handle their business. Which is a shame because, for a $50 million player, you definitely want him playing more than basically anyone. But it is what it is at this current point. If we don't win a championship, I do think Cat will get traded. I think this is the year. I don't know if Leon Rose is going to break it up mid-season. I highly doubt it. But I do think, the squad got one more postseason in them with Cat. And then I think we address it. Yuri, salute. Michael says, I'm not worried about our D. It'll get better as time works out. It'll get a lot better with Hart and Mitch out there. Most def. Marvin says, the Knicks were playing great ball before the loss. They shall rebound starting Friday against Trae Young and the Hawks. Great comment, Marvin. I do think, the Knicks, I don't think this loss hurts their confidence in any way. I think they took San Antonio's best blow in this one 3 times, and they answered and countered. Unfortunately, we kind of punched ourselves, self-inflicted wounds late. And I do think, we'll definitely be a lot better in the second matchup against them, at Madison Square Garden. Johnny Chiba says, CT, the problem is great defensive teams can shut down Towns. Look, we've seen some issues with the wings on Towns. I've seen some mixed results where it's looked bad, and we've been able to counter it as well with Cat in the post. I think the example of that is against Boston, Johnny Chiba. First game against Boston early in the season, Cat took advantage of the post game and the matchup against the smaller guy. The second game is when what's his name, Joe Mazzulla, definitely made an adjustment, and Jaylen Brown had such a night where they switched. They tried to get Brunson onto to Jaylen Brown every single time. So I guess that goes to show, guys, it's nuanced. Like, you might think your team has to kill a matchup over the other team, but that could be for one game and one game only. Coaches are there to make an adjustment. The second game, a good coach is not going to let you beat them the same way, right? You might think, okay, this worked one game, I'm going to beat them again the same way. If you're going up against another good coach, that's if they're a good coach. If they're a good coach, they're not going to let you beat them the same way. They're going to make an adjustment to that adjustment, and you're going to have to find another way to win. Now, ultimately, it just could be a back and forth. Who makes more shots, right? If you've got a guy like Jalen Brunson, that's how you win a championship. Just a guy that's just better than their guy. That it could also come down to that. Does your guy hit more shots than their guy? But at the end of the day, I do think it's a team sport, and ultimately the best team usually wins, right? Barring a game 7, the better team usually wins because, role players, other guys, make more of an impact and they step up, right? Now, I know, they're not going to show too much emotion on the sideline. There's too much respect on this team, but I best believe in the locker room that these guys are holding everyone accountable, right? And if Cat makes the same error again or missed assignment, Yabu, I best believe that, in the locker room, these guys are singling it out and say, look, man, we love you, but, we can't have that happen again. Otherwise, we're going to check you. And that's how we can win, right? If Cat making silly errors, someone better, also let him know about it. Because you can't be letting the team down, right? This is a team sport. And you see other guys breaking their necks out there, making the right plays. Ultimately, you win as a team and you lose as a team, right? So that's why, I hope Mike Brown gonna, continue to push the right buttons, get guys out, if they're making errors. For the most part, I don't think it's effort related. We're not seeing any guy dog on a play or, give a half a effort. But what we do see is, lack of focus sometimes, lack of IQ, lack of reading the scouting report, lack of adjusting, failure to understand the play call. That's another one as well. We saw Jalen Brunson get very frustrated at Yabusele in the last game. Thankfully, we won. But yet these guys are letting each other have it. In terms of, defensively, Cat, complete nightmare, 7-foot body, raise your hand up and defend without fouling. Just don't lose to ATL, says Michael. Buzzerbeater says, CT, what happened to Cleveland this year? Too one-dimensional, fam. Too much resting on the shoulders of Donovan Mitchell. I don't think Evan Mobley's made a proper leap to be a second option on a championship team, fam. And Darius Garland is in and out, right? He's in and out like In-N-Out Burger in terms of enough to develop chemistry. And I do think they lost a lot of depth, a lot of shooting, right? I think, what's his name? Ty Jerome was a major piece for Cleveland last season, too. Yeah, it just goes back to team chemistry as well, fam. You let Donovan Mitchell hijack the offense all the time, I think it could help you and hurt you as well. That's the same way Knicks fans didn't want Brunson-centric offense, because we know it can win you ball games. But under Thibodeau, that's all it would be. You know, if one guy's isolating and devastating, what are the other four guys doing, man? They're getting cold. The other four guys are getting cold. So, I do think we have a better shot with Mike Brown with the ball moving. It might not end up with Brunson taking the final shot, but I trust that we're going to get a good shot. And I do think it's our best shot, to get it done. Be less predictable. Last season we were highly predictable. And look, I don't want to be negative, but on the bounce of a ball either way, we don't beat Boston. If the bounce of the ball goes either way, we don't beat Detroit. We deserve to get through, and we came up trumps, but at the same time, I think, there were some things out of our control. Like Boston missing a historic amount of threes. That's variance. On another night, that might not have happened. I think with this team and this coach, we are controlling more of the controllables, such as assisting up, more three-point attempts up, faster speed is up, rotation numbers are up. We are trying to control things that we can control, and outside of that, man, I think we're going to give it our best shot. Could we do with one more depth piece? Absolutely. I think you always can. The fact that the younger guys are stepping up is great, in case of an injury, for future-proofing the team. But for this season alone, if we are singularly focused on winning that championship, I think you definitely got to, make those calls. Try to get a Sadiq Bey, try to get another guy. Jose Alvarado, I don't know, in terms of with Kolek emerging, less of a need. But if you could get maybe a defensive wing, another lockdown wing, or another big man that can rebound and has a little bit of offense around the basket, I do think that would help us a lot. Man, that would just take the pressure off of Huck Porty, to produce in big games. It would take the pressure away from a McCullar or, having to play major minutes if Hart goes down. Fam. And look, it ultimately might not be Sadiq Bey because the contract is going to be tough to, to maneuver in that one. But there could be another guy out here. I was watching Detroit the other night, man. I forgot that they've got Javonte Green too. So there's a lot of depth on Detroit. They've got Sasser, they've got Ron Holland, they've got Beef Stewart off their bench. They've got, like I said, Javonte Green and a couple of other guys. Buzzer beater says, CT, have we found our wings with McCullar and Diawara? Yeah, we absolutely have. I think we've found our guys for now. But McCullar is on a two-way, fam, and like I said earlier, we need to find a way to make him available for the postseason, and that is to trade Dardier or Yabu. Or if possible, have McCullar be the 15th man under the salary when April hits. Johnny Chiba says, CT, let's talk that pass from McCullar to Huck to end the half. How that bodes for the future with Kolek, Pate, and Mo in tow, fam. Absolutely, Johnny Chiba. I love that pass. We hit on that a little bit earlier, but that wraparound was beautiful to see, as I bring it up. And that is why I like McCullar, because he can make those extra plays. Let me bring it up. Right. It was a play where, McCullar looks comfortable doing that. He can get into the paint, and with the nice wraparound, here we go. Nice little head fake from Kev Jr. as well. Rocas, yeah, no sign of Rocas. I think the Knicks organization's done with him. I do think he'll be a draft and stash kind of guy, which is handy to have. But also, we haven't talked about what's his name, James Nagy. Committing to Baylor. Man, what a advancement that is now, where players with pro NBA experience, right, can go back to college, and the team still has their draft rights. Man, so we get to watch James Nagy minutes in college, going up against college guys, knowing that we still have his draft rights, fam. Now I ain't banking on James Nagy becoming anything anytime soon. That is, he's still very young, very raw. He's not ready for us right now, but it is going to be fun to see him, ball out in college. Jose on Diawara. He started the game brightly, fam. Looked good in the first half. Third quarter, first possession, there was a lapse. Mike Brown, wanted Deuce back out there, and it was one of the possessions offensively where the offense kind of froze. Diawara had the ball, and I think he overpassed, or he looked away from the basket, fam. The defender kind of sagged off. Diawara, was missing a couple of threes earlier in the first half as well. And I think Mike Brown just felt like, it was a little too passive on the offensive side. Deuce got in there, and then, things started to flow a little bit better. So nothing to be overly concerned about, guys. I think there's going to be these games with growing pains with the young guys. There's going to be, not every night can be a breakout night. There's going to be games where, McCullar doesn't have it going, or Kolek, and you got to get the veteran back out there. That's fine. It's team first. But you got to do the opposite of what Tibbs would do, which is coach them up and, get them confident for the next performance. Get them back up, and teach them, and not just kind of, throw them back out into the doghouse. So, yeah, James Nagy headed back to Baylor, fam. There was another guy that I saw as well. We're going to talk about it in a future show. Ed K, salute. The bad news is that Towns' contract is basically untradeable. It gets more expensive every year. There's also a $60 million plus player option to it. Yeah, look, it's the Giannis trade, or if Giannis demands a trade to the Knicks, that gives us more leverage. It's that, or it's like an Anthony Davis kind of, where it's like, where we're trading questionable for another questionable. But that's best case scenario, fam. And I think outside of the Giannis deal, we're stuck with Cat, for the good and the bad. Right, I say that because I still believe Cat, is extremely talented. And at nights where he's clicking, you thank heaven that he's your second option. But there's obviously too much inconsistency. We can all agree that there's just too many inconsistencies, right? So as a coach, you've got to figure out a way to balance it out. And that is what we're doing in a way, because we are subtly resting Mitchell Robinson so that when we have to play Mitch more, we're able to do so. Fam, let's not forget about why we ultimately lost this game. We're resting Mitch so that when it's push comes to shove, Mitch can play. He can play more minutes, right? We're pacing ourselves, right, for the final sprint, right? Other teams out here trying to treat the season like a 100-meter sprint. We're treating the regular season like a marathon. When it comes to a marathon, at the end of the race, there is a sprint to the finish line, right? And you want to be, in the best possible position for that one, right? So, hey, with that said, man, appreciate tonight and rocking out with us despite the loss. We ring in the new year. Happy New Year to everyone out here, and wish you a prosperous, a joyous, and a buzzing 2026. I do believe it's going to be a great year coming up. 25 was filled with a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but we stick together, keep it real, definitely keep it locked in. Man, this is a fun time to be a Knicks fan, because where we've come from to where we are now is night and day, right? We actually won a significant accolade, a trophy this season, calling ourselves NBA Cup champs, and we're positioned for a great postseason run, right? Some more challenges are coming, right? We've got to be ready. We've got to be prepared. We've got to be locked in. ATL, Philly, Detroit, Clippers, Phoenix, Portland. That West Coast trip in January, man, is going to be a jungle. Phoenix is playing all right. Portland's playing well. Sacramento, Golden State. But obviously the Clippers have started to lock in as well. I think ATL and Philly. Mitch might come. Reports actually coming out from Ian Begley, Steph Bondi, is that Mitch will return in one of the next two. Right? If it ain't going to be ATL, it'll be against Philly. If it's against ATL, he might sit against Philly. But I do think he'll be playing on against Detroit, right? Detroit, the West Coast trip coming up. Too, fam. So appreciate the super chat contributions, man. Tonight, you guys were absolutely on fire. Buzzer Beater, AP, Johnny Chiba, Schofield, and everyone else for your right questions, analysis, and thoughts as well. It's much appreciated. Hit that like button if you haven't already. And it's upwards from here, ladies and gentlemen, man. You got to stay positive. It's upwards from here. Now let's get this thing done, right? We're battle hardened. We're tested. We're going through the ringer right now, and we are in a great position. So, with that said, peace, and we'll see you on the other side.